Okay, so today we're gonna have a little read from our friend ChatGPT. I asked a question. I think information that ChatGPT is gonna show is available already, so it's nothing new. But the way it's structured is quite concise. I will add a few words after maybe, but I'm just gonna read it to you now. In the resurgence of nationalism, religion, and patriarchy, and is the resurgence of nationalism, religion, patriarchy, an attempt by the hierarchical structures of society to maintain control of the masses in the times where AI threatens the validity of human leadership that is corrupted by power. This is a profound and timely question. Let's unpack it carefully. ChatGPT says, the resurgent nationalism, religion, patriarchy can indeed be interpreted in part as a reactive strategy by entrenched hierarchies to resist control in an era where traditional sources of authority are being undermined by technology, by social awareness, and by existential uncertainty. AI as a threat. So it breaks it down in 6 points. This is the first point. AI is a threat to traditional authority. AI challenges human leadership in two key ways. Competence. AI may outperform human leadership in logic, decision-making, pattern recognition, and even diplomacy of governance modeling. And the two, transparency of corruption. Digital tools and open data make it easier for people to detect hypocrisy, incompetence, and corruption in elites. If leadership is seen as a corrupt or incompetent, AI and decentralized technology like blockchain, open source platform, often non-human, supposedly neutral alternatives to organized society. This poses an existential threat to traditional power structure, political, religious, and social. 2. Nationalism, reasserting identity and control. The rise of nationalism can be seen as a reaction to globalization, which dilutes national sovereignty and identity, a way to re-centralize power in the face of global networks and AI systems that don't respect borders. And 3, a psychological defense mechanism. If machine and global elites are in control, let's return to the nation as our tribe, as our protector. This reinforces hierarchical control by making the state the ultimate authority, often centered around a charismatic or authoritarian leader. This describes perfectly the zeitgeist at the moment. 3, religion reclaiming meaning in the rational age. As AI and science push further into the unknown, even questioning the nature of consciousness or free will, religion offers certainty, order, and an unchanging moral framework. So religion offers the unchanging moral framework. From a control perspective, religion can be instrumentalized by the political leaders to legitimize their rule, as seen historically and in modern theocracies. It offers community and obedience, which can counter the destabilizing effects of rapid technological change. Hierarchies may encourage religious resurgence as a bulwark against secular post-human futures and threaten their narrative control. 4, patriarchy, restoring familiar power structures. As AI and social progress challenges traditional gender roles, some react by reassessing patriarchal structures. The destabilization of masculinity and traditional family roles leads some to embrace patriarchal ideologies as a return to order. Patriarchy is hierarchical by nature. It places men, especially older and wealthier ones, at the top, and can serve as a consolidation of power against egalitarian disruption. In times of uncertainty, traditionalism is often sold as stability, even if it's regressive. 5, collective anxiety and reactionary movements. In a moments of rapid change, especially when power becomes more abstract, AI decision, algorithmic governance, people look for tangible anchors. Identity, which ties to nationalism, meaning, which ties to religion, order, which ties to patriarchy. Elites can exploit this psychological need by channeling anxiety towards reactionary ideologies, thus preserving their own position in the hierarchy. And 6, alternative view, it's not always coordinated. It's also worth noting that this resurgence isn't always conscious conspiracy by the powerful. Sometimes it's organic, a collective social immune response to disorientation. It reflects deep cultural inertia, old ideas resurfacing when new systems fail to provide meaning and cohesion. Hierarchies don't need to conspire. They might simply act in self-preservation, leveraging whatever the ideologies are most effective at maintaining control. In summary, yes, the resurgence of nationalism, religion, and patriarchy can be understood as a reactive strategy by hierarchical system to resist control, a response to AI and technological shifts undermining human leadership and exposing its corruption, a return to old paradigms of order in the face of the existential uncertainty. But it's also a complex interplay of cultural, psychological, and structural forces, not necessarily a coordinated effort, but a converging one that benefits those already in power. So this answer that ChatGPT gave goes on to prove that is more than capable to come with an answer that a human could come to an answer. I mean, you would have to meet a philosopher to get you these answers, Whereas ChatGPT, you already showed me what I had the sense in my mind, because I was thinking like for a long time, the past year or so, that this is not, this resurgence of nationalism is not organic, but it is organic in a way, because the leaders that are in power, they set the tone. They set the tone for how society should behave. So they stream these ideas towards your mind, and obviously with patriarchal religion and authority structures being very deep implemented in your mind, people will just, come up and join. So it's not like it's not you can see it as a conspiracy, but you can see it as organic as well. So it's like it's both things at the same time. It's a conspiracy and it's organic. It's not the one or the other. What's in you, what's inside of you, that your desire to maintain control of your fixed ideas of nationality, patriarchy, religion, and all sorts of things. They're deep buried inside of you, and what's in you is inside that man that sits on the podium and tells you what activates what's inside of you. This structure are already in your mind, So that's why it's very easy to bring it up and make it something of a trend in society. People don't realize this because obviously they just react. They're just reactive. Then they don't have the knowledge. They don't seek knowledge. They don't want to safety. They're going towards safety and control. So that's how it works. You want to preserve what you already know, and what you already know is in everyone's psyche, is in everyone's mind, and it just needs a trigger, and they use that trigger to start a movement. it's absurd to it's absurd. This movement is absurd because you could see like all these bosses of the big technological companies, they were on the wave with previous power structure, which was the expansion of globalization, integration, and acceptance of different faiths, identities, and dilution of identity into this global mass of what have you, you know, this universal love of economic prosperity, you know. So that was like a more of an that is, I think that one is more dangerous than patriarchy, because patriarchy in a religion and authority, because that one blends with the, uses the underlying movement of life towards, it blends with change, it blends with change and fuses with change, but it maintains control. It maintains control over financial gain and economics and all that stuff. It's not like countries that want to bring other countries into democracy. They just want to make them markets. They want to make them markets, and they want to control their economies. It's not like a charity. It's all an economical machine. The globalization was an economical machine that was attuned to the movement of decentralization, but also maintained the control. Whereas patriarchal structures are more about contraction and sort of sovereignty. It's not sovereignty, because you can't be sovereign with another individual. So you're all sovereign by yourself. This is why you will see Tim Cook, all the big bros in the landscape of technology joining Donald Trump and being at various events. Guys that were so progressive before, and they were like all for integrating globalization and expansion of open borders and everything. Now they're joining the other movement of contraction, of nationalism, of with money and with they don't shout so loud, but they're always there. They're all right behind the structures of power, because they want to preserve their power. So it's very, very simple. It's just, the world is very simple. It's just the mind always wants to maintain control. So what's in you is in them as well. So there's no difference between you and them. The only difference between you and them is just they want to maintain their position, and you want more, as well. So it's like a mirror. They're reflecting on you. They're the same. The minds are all the same. If you understand one mind, you understand all the minds. There's no difference. There's no one, different in terms of mind. The minds are all based on fear. So they are more power, more control all the time. Inevitably, this will lead to conflicts. This will lead to war. This will lead to everything. On the surface, it's seen as the source of all these problems seems to be fear, because you say that all mind is rooted in fear, and they want to acquire more power to alleviate their fears of losing what they have. So that's the main narrative in psychology and in many religious teachings. But it's not fear, it's love. And it's not love, it's identification. So identification is the main cause of all these problems. So identify with what you have and what you acquired, and then you want to protect it. So in a way, it's love for the wrong object, love for the false object, for the false identity that runs the world, not fear. You know, the if you look at wars, for example, if you look at Ukraine, if you look at wars now, well, any wars is the same. You know, people of their own, and they start war with someone else who want to conquer them. You know, and the other side, people of their own, and they have a reason. They must find a reason, a moral reason that why, you know, the armed conflict starts. You know, like for example, if you look at Ukraine is sovereign, if Ukraine is free, Ukraine is should have independence. And then Russia, the same, wants to protect the people of Donbass, wants to protect oppressed people, and that they're not allowed to speak their language. But so the language is the language of love. The language is the language of protection. They go from that, you know. But for example, if Ukraine, which is a wrecked country now, this war will end, we'll need investors. So you'll need people to come there and invest. How they're going to invest? Well, they're going to invest by extracting resources to produce objects that they're going to be sold to you and other markets. So what do people get? That people that are involved in this, what do they get? They get the appearance of some progress out of the economical output. But in order to have economical output, you need to exploit the land. So it's all about exploitation. There is no, we want Ukraine to be free and independent. Nobody wants an individual to be free and independent. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants you to be free and independent. If you're independent, they lose their power over you. So you must be controlled somehow. You have to understand this. You have to. It's very simple. It's very simple. I mean, and it's in you as well. It's in you as well. You want to. The mind wants to predict situations. The mind wants to anticipate the future. And no one wants to go in uncharted territory and deal with people that have different views than themselves. And that's why you had this like a few years, you had this cancel culture, and then Trump came in and all these authoritarian leaders waging a war on cancel culture, and then themselves they take control of the media, like they did with Jimmy Kimmel, who made maybe a bad joke or something like that, you know, and many others. I mean, they want to control the narrative. They want to control what you think. Always. It's not their fault. It's in your mind as well. So, so it's like, it's not, I don't know how to say it. It's just the biggest danger to the world is ourselves, you know. People don't want to recognize it, but this is it. This is it. Unless a personal change happens in your life, and see the world as it is, you know, and see your mind as it is. It's just an instrument for preservation. It's a preservational instrument if you identify with it. Otherwise, it's just an instrument. You use it and then you put it aside, you know. But as long as you identify, you take you attach things to it. You don't want to let it go, because you are the mind. You are this body, you are this. That's always changing. It's always changing, and we give enough religion and God and afterlife for the goodies that this society can provide and make us immortal. Yeah. So it's if you want, how you call it, atheism is just a reactionary movement towards religion, but it's also, by being a reaction movement towards religion, atheism becomes a belief, And if you ask any atheism what his arguments are, he would give you the arguments as science. So science is a religion. Science is promise you a future. Science is promise you. You have to look deep into it. What are the scientists doing? What's the direction the scientists are taking in terms of like research and everything? They want to control matter. They want to control disease. They want to control how long this body is gonna live. They want to reach to the furthest galaxies and find out how this world was created, and the hope that one day they will grab God by the leg, So the search is there. The search of science for immortality has been already set up by religion. So the structure of science, the search, has already been set up by religion, which the religion is based on, for the most part, is based on achieving immortality, whereas life happens just now. But life always unfolds now, and it can always happen now. But you identify with this changing body, with these changing ideas in your mind, and then you want to make them permanent. You always want to make them permanent. I think I went deeper than necessary for this video. And it's difficult to separate yourself from the madness of the world, because you get the basic needs that you need to provide for, and when everyone is focused on acquiring more, the bottom part of society has to struggle to survive, And because they're in fear of losing out, because they're in fear of not having enough, which enough is a standard set by others, they're always under stress. On the stress, they're always on the stress. They're always on the treadmill. They're always like galloping towards, achieving what others has set for themselves to achieve in order to be content, at least for a moment, to have a house, to have a family, to have to have peace, to have a roof over your head, You have to get loans and pay next year, and so on. It's like debt is an investment in the future, Debt is an investment in the future. So that debt is like part of this religion, that keeps you in line. And that is activated by the standards society places on you, and their strategies of limiting your progress. For example, most of the things that are in this world are only polluting. They're not necessary, you know. You have some basic needs, right? Food, shelter, I don't know, sexuality, sleep. These are basic needs of the body, you know. And then you have higher needs and higher needs, prestige, all these higher needs. That's the pyramid of Maslow's pyramid of needs, you know. But only the basic needs are the needs of the body, you know. Everything else is attached, is from the mind, is created by society, you know. So society creates the needs and makes you struggle to get them, you know, because if you don't get higher needs, then, you know, you're not good enough. You perceive there's less. Status comes into play. Oh, these people have more, I don't have enough, you know, I don't have as much as them, not as rich as them. You always compare. Mind always compares with other things. It doesn't stand inferiority. The inferiority is threat, and inferiority is born out of this comparison between what others have and what you have. If you just look after your body, look after the needs of the body, you don't have so many needs. I mean, most of society provides for you, even if you live in like a poorer country. I don't know. For example, Ukraine, right? They wanted to join European Union to be more of a prosperous country. Ukraine didn't want to join European Union because they didn't have what to eat, and people didn't have a shelter over their heads. Ukraine wanted to join the European Union just as other countries, just as my country wanted and other countries wanted, in order to get the goodies, in order to get better cars, in order to get better, to travel, to go places without restrictions, to eat comfortably, buy from the supermarket, cheaper prices, which are obviously non-organic, and you know, all sorts of products that are full of sugar and everything. You're being sold this lifestyle. This is why democracy is such an important tool for expansion. It's very important to break into authoritarian systems in order to seduce them into this lifestyle. You seduce them into this lifestyle, and by giving them, you know, the goodies, advertising the goodies. Oh, why would you want to work the land and grow your own crops and, you know, live a life of subsistence in their terms, you know, like you work the land and you have your own food and stuff like that, where you can, you know, sit on a laptop or on a phone and be on TikTok and buy your food from the supermarket, you know. Like, you don't realize that supermarket controls what you eat. Of course, out of greed, you know. They have to cut down costs all the time. They have to cut down costs. Growing organic food is expensive, it's labor intensive and everything. You need people to look after crops. So it's easier when you're only interested in profits and money. You know, that's the way to go. We worship money. Money is like a new religion. You got money and you buy the goods. It's like people are gravitating towards lottery, you know. It's like, why would I keep like growing my own crops and work my ass off, work the land and with animals and all that when I can buy it from the supermarket and not work? And then what you do with your mind? You spend it on television, you sit on TikTok, you watch the videos and games and all these models the society puts in your mind, and then you find yourself, you're anxious, you're depressed, you have all sort of sickness in your mind, because you're not living in the body. You're not living in the body, you're living in your mind all the time. That's why these devices, these phones and these iPads and everything, there's such a menace on society. And for example, all these phones, all the interface, not the phones, but all the interface, the software interface is controlled by two companies in the United States. It's controlled by Google and by Apple. Google is a closed platform, whereas Apple is a closed platform, whereas Google is an open platform that accepts other manufacturers and stuff like that. But if you look at both companies, I've been writing comments online and stuff like that, but that's the thing with democracy. When there's a majority already well established, your voice doesn't matter. Between 3.5 and 6 inches, there's no phones. There's no phones with the screen size between 3.5 and 6 inches. So the phone is not anymore like a tool. The phone has become an entertainment device that sells you entertainment, that sells you trends, that sells you things that condition your happiness. Standards of the society are there. So if you look at the Instagram, people glowing this and taking pictures on this beach, on this mountain, on this, and that's a new goal for you. New lifestyles are being projected to you through these devices. They teach you what happiness is. They teach you achievement of that. Being on a yacht, sipping champagne and eating lobster. That's the life. That's the happiness. You should throw that in the garbage. The mind is, there's a self-regulating system in the mind that's called homeostasis. So the chemicals, if there's an imbalance in the chemicals of your brain or the body automatically regulates the chemicals. You can look at it. You can look at on Wikipedia. So the body automatically regulates the chemicals in order to maintain the sensitivity of its senses. If you're going to be happy all the time and in ecstasy, you cannot defend yourself from a predator or react to some danger or something happening. The body is exactly the one as you would have in an animal. The body is the same, so to speak. Is the mind that's different, which is a creation of society. This is extension. The mind is an extension of the mind is an extension of the identification with sensation that has taken that has taken a new form of life. Identification with sensation, identification with thoughts. So we used to describe thoughts to create this reality around us, and this has taken over. And we create, through thoughts, we create this world. This is not particular to us. Unlike most mammals, they create a map around themselves. But because we have an identity that we can supply with words and labels, our mind becomes that world of words and labels. Whereas the world is the world of senses. If you look at all, like most animals, they live in their senses all the time. They live in their senses all the time, and they react. They're in a reactionary mode. So the man is trying to anticipate through its mind. You know, that's his powerful tool that led him to the advancement of society and all the stuff you see around. But that, because he's taken a life on its own, is starting to reach immortality. So you identify with a story in your mind about who you are, but life is constantly changing. So you're fighting a losing battle, basically. The mind is fighting a losing battle. Because this body always changing and the world changing, and there's no single point in the universe that doesn't change. Always change. And also there's no two things that are identical. And you can look it up scientifically. In the universe, there's no two things that are identical. You can ask ChatGPT if you want. It will give you a comprehensive answer. So you're trying to create others like yourself in the image you have about how things should be, and to maintain a sort of perceived identity, but you're always changing.